Remember that famous rags to riches story? You remember that story of how a person was in a condition of rags, and throughout the progression of time, we find them in a state of riches. I wonder what happened. Or how about a so-called insignificant person? This person in a so-called insignificant social status, maybe a homeless person, and throughout the progression of time, how they strive against seemingly unsurmountable odds, and we find them in a state of fame and fortune. What happened? Or consider for a moment your own personal story. Think about the time when you set a goal. You remember when you set an objective? And you strive for that objective day in and day out, and finally, yes, you reached your goal. You reached your objective. Ladies and gentlemen, I would have you to know that the primary ingredient in the success process is belief. You've got to believe. You've got to believe in order to achieve. You see, belief is fundamental to success. It's as fundamental to success as air is fundamental to breathing. You've got to believe. In order to, when you believe something, you accept something to be real and true. You possess a conviction that this thing is true. There's a man in Detroit, Michigan, that some of you might know. He married a famous singer by the name of Gladys Knight. His name is Les Brown. Now, I tell Les Brown's story not only because it adds validity to what I said earlier that you've got to believe in order to achieve, but Les Brown's story serves as a model to what I can achieve in my personal life if I only believe. You see, even before Les Brown was born, he was given up to adoption. He was prognosed in the 5th grade as being educationally, mentally retarded. And his adopted parent, Miss Mamie Brown, she was told that she shouldn't expect a lot out of him. You know, he just won't do so well like the other students. And this to you might seem like a tragedy, and it is. But the real tragedy, my friends, lied within the mind of Les Brown himself. You see, Les Brown believed and received the circumstances in which he was born until he was schooled by what I call a wise teacher. This teacher, Mr. Washington, challenged Les Brown to believe in the possibilities of his dreams. And as a result, today we have Les Brown, the motivational speaker extraordinaire who travels the world commanding successfully thousands of dollars a day. I think about their possibilities for myself. Consider with me for a moment, if you would. What is the fundamental difference between a coward and a brave person? The fundamental difference between a coward and a brave person is what they do. And what they do is based upon what they believe. You see, belief is fundamental to success. Not magic, not luck, and not chance, but belief. You've got to believe in order to achieve. I have considered in my studies, and I question, what is the inherent law of the mind as it relates to the body? What happens inside of your mind which causes your body to react as it does in any event of any circumstances? Science presents us with an answer. Science says we have two minds. We have a reactive mind and an analytical mind. And the reactive mind, this is the mind that doesn't make a difference between reality and fiction. In your reactive mind, if you believe something to be real and true, then that thing becomes real and true for you, even though absolute certainties are absent. Now this is in contrast to our analytical mind. Your analytical mind, that's the mind that makes the finite distinctions and things as minute as the atom, to something that is as grandiose as Mount Kilimanjaro, which stands 19,340 feet high. Our analytical mind, that's the mind that finds it difficult to believe those things that it cannot consciously, quantitatively, spatially, and or demographically analyze. And this is where my body comes in. This is where your body comes in. Because when you believe something to be real and true, your neurological system accepts and processes that data and sends a message to the body, and there's a call for action. Whether the action is to stand and fight or to turn and run like crazy. In the face of any event, you've got to believe. You see, we are all buffeted by circumstance as long as we believe ourselves to be creatures of outside conditioning. But when we believe and when we see ourselves as a creative power able to command the hidden seed in the soil of our being, out of which circumstance grow, we then become the rightful masters of ourselves. But you've got to believe. You've got to believe that you can. You've got to believe that you will. You've got to believe that you must achieve your goals and your objectives. It's like what the poet said. If you believe in a thing bad enough, you're going